Hey guys, tonight we drift back to the dawn of 1519, when the sun over Lake Texcoco shimmered like molten gold, and the heart of the Aztec world beat loud enough to make the earth tremble. You can almost hear it now, drums thudding in slow rhythm, conch shells echoing across the causeways, banners of eagle feathers rippling in the wind. Beneath that soundscape lies a world balanced on fear, faith, and ambition. You might want to brace yourself, because if you were standing there, looking up at the twin temples of Tenochtitlan, you probably wouldn't survive this story. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing where in the world my little bedtime expeditions land. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Aztec Empire in early 1519 wasn't truly an empire in the European sense. It was a patchwork alliance of three city-states: Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan. This was the Triple Alliance, forged back in 1428 after a bitter war against the Tepanecs. Think of it as a business merger that accidentally built the biggest military machine in Mesoamerica. Each partner took its share of tribute from conquered cities, but like in every partnership where one member suddenly gets rich and fabulous, resentment simmered under the surface. Tenochtitlan, the capital built on an island in the lake, began modestly: mud, reeds, and floating gardens. But by 1519, it had become one of the largest cities on Earth, rivaling anything in Europe. Around 300,000 souls lived there, surrounded by causeways and aqueducts, with canals flowing like veins through its districts. The air smelled of copal incense, maize gruel, and sometimes of human blood. Because for the Aztecs, war wasn't just politics. It was cosmic maintenance. The sun itself demanded nourishment. Every battle had a sacred purpose: to capture prisoners who could feed the gods in ritual sacrifice. Historians still argue whether this system of flower wars was primarily religious, political, or both. But to an outsider, it might have looked like perpetual carnage dressed as devotion. You can picture it now: painted warriors marching in orderly ranks, banners snapping, obsidian blades glinting in the light. Their empire extended across much of central Mexico, from the Gulf Coast to the Pacific, extracting tribute in gold, cotton, cacao, feathers, and lives. Cities that resisted found themselves burned, their nobles paraded to the altars atop the Great Pyramid. Yet even those who submitted could not rest easy. Tribute quotas were crushing. Entire villages were forced to send thousands of baskets of maize or dozens of slaves just to appease Tenochtitlan's bureaucrats. And yet, amid this machinery of conquest, there was brilliance. The Aztecs were engineers, astronomers, artists, and philosophers. They had libraries filled with pictorial manuscripts, codices recording genealogies, laws, and celestial charts. The poet King Nezahualcóyotl of Texcoco, yes, one of the Alliance founders, had written hymns pondering mortality and the illusion of power long before Shakespeare's Hamlet ever sulked about to be or not to be. In one of his verses, he asked, "Do we live in truth on earth? Not forever on earth, only a little while here." That melancholy beauty would soon become prophetic. Still, daily life for the average citizen wasn't all terror and theology. The marketplaces of Tlatelolco buzzed like modern shopping malls. Thousands of traders hawking obsidian tools, chocolate drinks, and even exotic pets. Some merchants were spies for the state, slipping news about rebellious towns to imperial officials. Education, too, was surprisingly advanced. Both boys and girls attended schools. Boys learned warfare or crafts. Girls learned weaving and household rituals. You might imagine young Aztec students complaining about homework on codex scrolls instead of tablets. Some things never change. But beneath the rhythm of commerce and prayer, tension brewed. Tributary peoples like the Tlaxcalans, Huexotzincas, and Totonacs hated the empire's dominance. To them, Tenochtitlan was a glittering monster demanding endless payment. Rumors whispered through the valleys that the gods were displeased. Bad omens appeared, a comet blazing across the sky, strange lights over the lake, temples struck by lightning. Even Moctezuma himself reportedly grew anxious, retreating into long periods of fasting and divination. Historians still argue whether these omens were real events or retroactive inventions meant to explain the catastrophe that followed. But in Aztec eyes, cosmic harmony was fragile, and when harmony cracked, the universe could fall apart. Now imagine yourself standing on the lake's edge one humid morning, watching the mist lift from the water. Across the horizon, you see something impossible. Sails, white as clouds, triangular like the wings of giant birds, moving against the wind. The strangers who arrive won't be easily categorized in any Aztec cosmology. Are they gods? Are they demons? Or just very bold men with very strange beards? In 1519, the Spaniards came, and with them, the end of a world. Their timing couldn't have been more surreal. The Aztec calendar had entered the year 1 Reed, associated with the god Quetzalcoatl, a divine figure said to have departed eastward long ago, promising to return one day from across the sea. When Hernán Cortés stepped onto the beaches of Veracruz, wearing metal armor that flashed in the sun, more than a few priests whispered that prophecy had come to life. But you'll have to keep that thought in the back of your mind, because the real story is less about gods and destiny and more about politics, psychology, and pure chance. You turn your gaze back to Tenochtitlan's bustling streets. Children chase dogs through the canals. Priests prepare incense for morning ceremonies. The emperor's messengers rush to the palace to report strange sightings. Floating towers at sea, creatures half man, half deer, breathing smoke and thunder. Moctezuma listens in silence. His face remains unreadable, but his fingers drum nervously on the obsidian throne. He orders gifts to be prepared, gold discs, fine cloaks, and food for the newcomers. In his mind, diplomacy might avert disaster. It's a gesture of etiquette in a world built on tribute and exchange. But to the Spaniards, it's confirmation that untold wealth lies ahead. From the calm heart of Tenochtitlan to the stormy shores of Veracruz, you can feel history drawing breath. The empire of 3 cities, Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, Tlacopan, has reached its zenith, glittering and vulnerable. No one yet knows that within 3 short years it will collapse in flame and disease. For now, the drums still beat. The gods are still fed. The markets still hum. The world still seems eternal, but across the sea, destiny has already set sail. You wake to the sound of drums and the scent of burning copal. The city is alive, stone temples catching the first light of dawn, priests in feathered cloaks climbing the steep steps to the twin shrines of Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc. You can almost feel the heat rising from the plaza as the crowd murmurs below, waiting for the moment when sunlight strikes the idol's jeweled face. This is Tenochtitlan, the empire's heart, an island of order and ceremony in a world built from conquest. But empires don't feed themselves on faith alone. Behind the festivals and pageantry lies a network of taxation and fear so vast it would make even modern bureaucrats sweat. After the Triple Alliance's victory in 1428, Tenochtitlan began asserting dominance over its 2 partners, Texcoco and Tlacopan. Tribute rolls expanded like scrolls of endless ink. Cotton, obsidian, cacao beans, maize, jaguar pelts, and above all, human lives. It wasn't just empire building, it was cosmic bookkeeping. Every conquered town owed not only its goods, but its sons, to ensure the gods would never go hungry. You watch as envoys from faraway provinces arrive, their backs bent beneath baskets of tribute. In the great palace of the emperor, scribes record every item on bark paper codices. A missed payment isn't merely a crime, it's heresy. When quotas fall short, armies march. This cycle, tribute, rebellion, punishment, keeps the empire running like a blood-soaked engine. And then there's the darker demand, captives for sacrifice. In Aztec theology, the universe itself ran on human energy. The sun, they believed, had once been born through divine self-sacrifice. Now, mortals must repay that debt. The most honored victims were warriors taken alive in battle. When they were led up the pyramid steps, the drums thundered louder, and thousands of spectators chanted to remind the gods that humanity still kept its promise. Historians still argue whether these rituals were primarily acts of devotion, political theater, or even a calculated form of terror meant to keep the empire in check. But standing here, you don't think about symbolism. You just smell blood mixing with incense, and it makes your stomach turn. Yet the same people who carved hearts from living bodies also built aqueducts, causeways, and floating gardens. That contradiction defines them. One moment you see an artisan painting delicate turquoise mosaics. The next, a priest daubed in crimson raising a blade of obsidian. Civilization and brutality share the same street. Some scholars suggest the empire's expansion was driven as much by the need for captives as by economics. Conquest, after all, replenished both treasure and the divine balance. Others think the sacrifices were exaggerated by later Spanish chroniclers, monks and conquistadors eager to paint their conquest as moral cleansing rather than opportunism. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, half myth, half mathematics. Still, every empire runs on stories. The Aztecs told themselves they were chosen by the sun, born to wage sacred war, and that idea made them unstoppable. Warriors trained from childhood in the Tepoztlali schools learned discipline, agility, and the art of taking enemies alive. Victory brought prestige, capture brought doom. In the capital, the returning armies paraded their prisoners through the streets, banners fluttering, drums pounding in time with the heartbeats of those destined for the altar. Meanwhile, the common folk toiled in fields and workshops, paying taxes and producing the riches that made Tenochtitlan gleam. Canals crisscrossed the Chinampas, the man-made islands of fertile mud that yielded crops year-round. Farmers steered canoes between rows of maize, beans, and chilies, their reflections rippling in the lake's still water. You could almost call it sustainable agriculture, if you ignored the occasional pile of skulls near the temple district. Trade flourished too. Pashteca merchants, wearing elaborate cloaks, traveled vast distances across Mesoamerica, acting as both traders and spies. They brought back jaguar skins from the south, copper from Michoacan, and gossip from every court. They were the empire's eyes and ears, and sometimes its dagger in the dark. But power breeds arrogance. By the late 15th century, Tenochtitlan's dominance had alienated nearly everyone around it. Neighboring states like Tlaxcala and Cholula paid lip service to the empire while seething beneath its demands. Tribute wasn't just taxation, it was humiliation, a reminder of subjugation delivered in baskets of food and blood. And Moctezuma II, the emperor in 1519, inherited both glory and tension. A seasoned warrior turned philosopher king, he ruled from a palace filled with gardens, aviaries, and even a zoo stocked with jaguars, eagles, and serpents. But his calm exterior hid an anxious heart. He was said to consult omens obsessively, sacrificing birds to read their entrails. Some of his advisors whispered that the empire had grown too vast, too proud. Others reassured him that the gods favored their people eternally. You can imagine the weight of that contradiction pressing on his mind. The fear that his reign might mark not a peak, but a precipice. In those days, tribute shipments arrived daily. From the coast came bundles of cotton and shells. From the mountains, obsidian blades and salt. Even human tribute, young men chosen for sacrifice, was listed in the same ledgers as bolts of cloth. The imperial machine was efficient, terrifyingly so, but cracks were forming. In distant provinces, rebellions simmered. The Tlaxcalans had defied Aztec authority for decades, surviving through skill, geography, and sheer stubbornness. The Totonacs grumbled against tribute collectors, and in Tenochtitlan itself, the nobility grew decadent, wearing gold nose rings while peasants struggled under mounting taxes. If you stood on one of the city's causeways and looked west, you'd see smoke curling from far-off volcanoes, Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl, like ancient guardians watching silently. The empire stretched as far as the eye could see. Yet somewhere beyond those mountains, unseen by anyone here, a few wooden ships were slicing through the Caribbean Sea, their sails white as bone. There's a bitter irony in all this. The Aztecs' very success had made them brittle. Their armies were strong, but their subjects hated them. Their capital was magnificent, but isolated on a lake. Their religion bound the universe together, but made peace impossible. Every year, more captives were needed, more tribute demanded. It's as if the gods themselves had designed the empire to burn bright and die young. You pause for a moment, watching a noble woman toss flower petals into the water. She looks serene, unaware that in just 2 years, this same lake will be choked with corpses and shattered canoes. She adjusts her jade necklace, smiles faintly, and walks toward the market. Life goes on, oblivious to its own countdown. One detail historians love to debate is whether the Aztecs knew how fragile their empire was. Some chroniclers describe Moctezuma as fatalistic, resigned to divine prophecy. Others see him as pragmatic, a shrewd politician who simply misread his enemies. Either way, when rumors arrived of pale-skinned strangers landing on the coast, riding beasts taller than men and carrying thunder in their hands, the emperor's unease deepened. He sent scouts, priests, and gifts, hoping to learn who or what these visitors were. But that part of the story is still waiting on the horizon. For now, the empire stands supreme. The markets of Tlatelolco are crowded, the temples polished, the causeways clear. The world of the Mexica people hums with life, power, and certainty. Yet just below the surface, you can almost sense the trembling, like the soft rattle of a drum before it's struck. The sun has risen high over Tenochtitlan. The priests descend the temple steps, their hands red, their eyes serene. Somewhere, Moctezuma prays for balance, unaware that his prayers have already been answered, in the form of sails approaching from the east. You drift through the midday heat of Tenochtitlan, the light bouncing off white stucco walls and shimmering water. Children splash in the shallows near the chinampas while traders shout prices for maize and turquoise in the great market. The air smells of roasted cacao and lime. At first glance, it looks like any prosperous day in the capital of an empire that believes itself eternal. But if you listen carefully, there's a quiet hum beneath the chatter, an unease that even the songs of the temple musicians can't quite drown out. For all its glory, this world lives on contradiction. The Aztecs are not barbarians in some forgotten jungle. They are thinkers, poets, and bureaucrats. Their empire has order, laws, and a surprisingly modern obsession with paperwork. Every sack of maize delivered, every captured warrior counted, every sacrifice recorded in pictographs neat as ledger entries. Yet those same scribes might pause their writing to sprinkle incense toward the east, asking the gods to keep the sun alive one more day. You wander toward the Kamikok, the school for nobles, where teenage students practice reading glyphs and reciting hymns. In one classroom, a teacher points to a painted codex showing the migration of the Mexica people from their mythic homeland, Aztlan. He explains how the gods guided them to found Tenochtitlan on the spot where they saw an eagle devouring a serpent atop a cactus. Outside the window, that same image flutters on imperial banners. You recognize it. It still adorns the flag of modern Mexico, 5 centuries later. The Empire's scholars aren't mere chroniclers. They are scientists of their age. Astronomers track Venus's cycles with uncanny precision. Mathematicians count in 20s using seashells and maize kernels. Engineers design canals and floodgates to keep the lake's level balanced. And painters, claquilos, record everything from trade contracts to epic myths in brilliant reds and blues. There's beauty here, a world of geometry and rhythm. But even these scholars live in the shadow of the gods. At night, their city glows with torches as priests chant on temple tops, offering thanks for the sun's safe return. Each dawn is a victory, each sunset a gamble. To the Aztec mind, the cosmos isn't a clockwork machine, but a living being that can starve, stumble, or die if not fed. Historians still argue whether this cosmic anxiety drove their genius or their cruelty. Maybe both. You suspect that's often true of civilizations. The same fear that inspires art can also justify atrocity. In the palace gardens, Moctezuma II walks alone among the caged animals. Jaguars prowl behind wooden bars, snakes twist in baskets, and exotic birds scream from the treetops. The emperor's robes shimmer with turquoise beads. His sandals are inlaid with gold. Servants avert their eyes as he passes. To outsiders, he seems divine. Huey Tlatoani, the great speaker, a man whose words are law. But inside, the great speaker hears whispers of disorder. His diviners speak of strange omens, flames bursting from temples, the lake boiling, voices crying in the night. Some say he dreams of a return of the god Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity of wisdom and wind. Others insist these are the anxious fictions of later chroniclers trying to make sense of fate. But either way, Moctezuma grows restless. He fasts, prays, and consults oracles. Somewhere deep down, he feels the world tilting. Meanwhile, you follow life in the streets, the smell of tamales and chocolate, the laughter of children chasing hairless dogs called Xoloitzcuintli. Women weave bright cloths on backstrap looms, gossiping about the emperor's moods. Fishermen row canoes through the canals, nets heavy with silver fish. The empire's daily rhythm hides its coming collapse so well it almost feels like eternity. Then, one morning, you notice something curious. A convoy of merchants from the coast arrives earlier than usual. They whisper about strange vessels seen near the shores of the Gulf, wooden mountains floating on the water, men with faces covered in hair, deer without horns that carry men on their backs. The market buzzes with disbelief. Most laugh it off as wild rumor, until the emperor summons the traders to repeat what they've seen. In his audience chamber, beneath a ceiling of jade mosaics, Moctezuma listens intently. His priests exchange uneasy glances. The description, men arriving from the east at the start of the year 1 read, matches too closely with the old prophecies of Quetzalcoatl's return. The emperor orders gifts prepared, gold discs, cloaks embroidered with feathers, food, and even sacred regalia. Maybe appeasement will keep these newcomers away. That decision will echo through history like a distant thunderclap. Meanwhile, the Aztec scholars continue their work. In Texcoco, philosophers debate whether human destiny is written in the stars or in personal virtue. One wise man, Ayocuan Quetzalcoatl, writes a poem asking, "Where will we go when we disappear? Is there truth on earth?" The same question might as well be whispered 500 years later by historians piecing together this story. You pause on a canal bridge, watching the reflection of a temple ripple in the water. It's easy to forget that the Aztecs were a young civilization, barely 2 centuries old. The Romans lasted longer, the Chinese dynasties far longer, but the Mexica rose fast, burned bright, and built a city so magnificent that even the Spaniards, hardened conquerors from half a world away, would later write about it in tones of awe and envy. Still, the empire's strength is also its weakness. It depends on constant expansion, on a chain of tribute that stretches to the horizon. Cut that chain, and famine follows. Stop the wars, and the gods grow hungry. It's a treadmill of devotion. Stop running, and everything collapses. You can sense the weariness behind the ceremony, like an actor trapped in an endless play he can no longer believe in. There's one more contradiction you can't ignore. For all their obsession with sacrifice, the Aztecs have deep compassion for order and beauty. Gardens bloom in courtyards. Music fills the air at every feast. Their calendar divides time with mathematical grace. They even have a kind of proto-university in Texcoco where noble youth study law, astronomy, and poetry. Civilization, in the truest sense, thrives here, right beside ritual slaughter. And yet, as twilight descends, a feeling of unease lingers. The lake glows copper under the sunset, and from somewhere across the water, a messenger's canoe approaches the palace dock. The man leaps ashore, breathless, and kneels before the emperor. He brings another report from the coast. The floating mountains have landed. Strange men with shining skins are building shelters near a river they call Tabasco. Their weapons spit fire. Their leader's name, Cortés. No one in the hall dares breathe. Moctezuma closes his eyes. The old prophecies whisper again. A bearded god will return from the east to claim his throne. He orders priests to pray and sacrifices to be offered. Maybe, he thinks, this can still be managed. Maybe these newcomers can be placated like any other tribe. You know better. From your vantage point in history, you can see what Moctezuma cannot, that these aren't gods, but men, driven by greed, fear, and ambition. They've crossed an ocean to carve out fortune or die trying. Their world, too, runs on contradiction, faith and cruelty, courage and greed, wrapped in iron and gunpowder. The sun sinks behind the mountains, staining the water blood red. Priests light torches atop the great temple. The city begins its nightly song. In the east, beyond the distant coast, lightning flickers. Somewhere out there, sails billow like ghostly wings. The people of Tenochtitlan don't know it yet, but the age of the gods is ending, and another, far stranger age is already on its way. The sun rises over the Gulf of Mexico, gilding the waves like sheets of hammered bronze. You're standing on a ship's deck, beside a man whose ambition could drown nations. His name is Hernán Cortés, and the salt air stings his eyes as he peers toward the coast of a land he has no right to conquer. Behind him, 11 ships creak and groan in the tide, filled with restless men, some eager, some terrified, all hungry. It's February 1519, and history has just woken up in the tropics. Cortés wasn't supposed to be here. Officially, he's a mutineer. He'd been granted permission by the governor of Cuba, Diego Velázquez, to lead a small expedition of trade and exploration. But then Velázquez grew suspicious. Cortés was too ambitious, too smooth with words, too eager for gold. The order came down to cancel the voyage. For most men, that would have been the end of it. For Cortés, it was just the beginning. He ignored the recall, gathered his ships, and sailed anyway, in what can only be described as a mixture of genius and career suicide. If he failed, he'd hang. If he succeeded, he'd be rich enough to buy forgiveness. Historians still argue whether he was a bold visionary or just an opportunistic gambler with good PR. You watch him pacing the deck, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword, and decide it's probably both. His army, if you can call it that, is laughably small for what lies ahead. Around 500 Spaniards, a few dozen horses, some cannons, and a handful of muskets that misfire as often as they shoot. They're not soldiers of an empire, but freelancers, adventurers, dreamers, fugitives. Some are veterans of wars in Italy. Others are just poor farmers chasing rumors of cities made of gold. Their faith is loud, their hygiene questionable, their morale wavering between divine destiny and tropical despair. And yet, Cortés knows something that Velázquez doesn't. He knows that history favors those who act first and explain later. Fortune, he'll later say, favors the bold. You can almost hear him muttering it under his breath as he scans the horizon. They make landfall on Cozumel, a small island dotted with palm trees and coral reefs. Here, fate tosses him a bizarre lifeline. A shipwrecked Spaniard named Geronimo de Aguilar. Aguilar had survived years as a captive among the Maya and speaks their language fluently. Suddenly, Cortés has a translator and a glimpse of how to navigate this strange new world. From Cozumel, they sail westward, hugging the coastline. The jungles of Tabasco rise before them, humid, green, and humming with unseen life. Mosquitoes swarm in black clouds. The local Maya city of Patanchan greets them not with parley, but with arrows. The Spaniards respond with cannon fire, smoke, and thunder. It's not a battle so much as a demonstration. A few blasts of gunpowder, a cavalry charge, and the defenders flee into the trees. When the smoke clears, the locals offer peace and gifts. Among them is a woman who will change everything. Her name is Malinche, though the Spaniards will call her Doña Marina or La Malinche. She's young, clever, and fluent in both Maya and Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs. With her and Aguilar working together, Cortés suddenly gains the power to speak to almost anyone in this vast land. You can picture it. Cortés speaks to Aguilar in Spanish. Aguilar translates to Maya for Malinche. She relays the words in Nahuatl to the locals, and then the process reverses. It's a linguistic game of telephone that somehow builds an empire. But Malinche isn't just a translator. She's a strategist, a diplomat, a survivor. Some will later call her a traitor. Others, the mother of modern Mexico. Maybe she's both. The victory at Patanchan gives Cortés confidence and gold. The Maya bring him ornaments, cloth, and the first whispers of a mighty empire inland, ruled by a man called Moctezuma. To the Spaniards, the very word sounds like a spell. An empire of riches? Cities built on lakes? Gold so abundant it's used for eating utensils? For men who left Spain with nothing, it's enough to drive them mad with greed. Cortés sails north and lands again on a wide, sandy beach where the jungle meets the sea. There he orders his men to build a new settlement. They name it Villarrica de la Vera Cruz, the rich town of the True Cross. But this isn't just a colony, it's a legal loophole. By founding the town, Cortés claims to act directly under the authority of the Spanish king, bypassing Velázquez entirely. The settlers elect him Captain General, and just like that, the mutineer becomes a legitimate commander. The maneuver is brilliant. It's like resigning from your job and immediately promoting yourself to CEO. Some of his officers grumble, but Cortés quells dissent with fiery speeches about honor, glory, and eternal reward. He knows his men fear punishment if they return to Cuba, so he gives them no choice but to move forward. Meanwhile, inland, word of the newcomers spreads like wildfire. Messengers race to Tenochtitlan, bearing descriptions of strange men riding beasts that snort smoke. Moctezuma listens, uneasy. He sends envoys bearing gifts, gold, silver, fine cloaks woven with feathers, as a gesture of appeasement. Maybe, he thinks, they'll be satisfied and leave. Big mistake. When the gifts arrive, the Spaniards stare in disbelief. The gold glitters in the sunlight, and every eye in the camp lights up like a candle. Cortés smiles thinly. To him, the meaning is obvious. If this is just a gift, imagine the wealth of the empire that sent it. To Moctezuma, the offering is diplomacy. To Cortés, it's an invitation. He gathers his officers that night around a fire, unrolling the tribute before them. Look, he says, this land is rich beyond measure. The people themselves bring us gold. Do you think God led us here to sail home empty-handed? The men murmur their approval. The mutiny becomes a crusade. Historians still argue how much of Cortés' success came from luck and how much from manipulation. But you can see the pattern already. Charm, daring, and a ruthless knack for turning fear into faith. He plays his men like a maestro, promising each one not only wealth, but immortality, the kind found in songs and chronicles. And somewhere beyond the flickering firelight, Malinche listens quietly, understanding more than any of them. She knows what lies inland, the mighty Aztec Empire, the heart of a world about to shatter. Before sleep, Cortés kneels and prays beneath the stars. He's defied his governor, risked execution, and now stands at the edge of a continent ruled by gods he doesn't believe in. But the cross gleams above his tent, and he takes that as a sign. You wonder what he really felt. Fear, awe, or maybe the thrill of standing on the cliff edge of history. Whatever it was, he'll never turn back. In a few days, he'll take an axe to his own ships, cutting away the last bridge to safety. But that comes later. For now, the waves lap softly against the hulls, and somewhere in the dark jungle, unseen eyes watch the invaders build their camp. The Empire of the Sun and the Empire of the Cross are about to collide. You can almost feel the tension in the air. Humid, heavy, electric. It's not just two cultures meeting. It's two universes that can't coexist for long. And in the middle of it all, Hernán Cortés smiles, whispering to no one in particular, "Here begins New Spain." The air hangs thick with heat and the sweet rot of mangroves. You stand beside Cortés on the beach at Veracruz as the surf curls around your boots. Behind you, the makeshift huts of the new settlement creak in the wind. Ahead, the jungle whispers. Somewhere beyond that green wall lies the empire he's come to find and destroy. But tonight, the Spaniards are busy pretending they're legitimate. Cortés has just staged a cabildo, a town council, and in a display of legal theater worthy of a modern courtroom drama, his men have elected him Captain General in the name of King Charles. Never mind that the king has no idea this is happening. Never mind that the governor of Cuba is already sharpening his quill to draft an arrest warrant. Paperwork, Cortés understands, is sometimes more powerful than armies. The men cheer, half believing their own charade. Some have begun to imagine themselves as nobles in waiting, lords of whatever cities they might plunder inland. The rest just hope the gold rumors are true. And then Cortés brings out the gifts from Moctezuma. Gold discs the size of shields, cloaks woven with hummingbird feathers that shimmer like liquid fire, jewels and carved masks. They're meant as tokens of friendship, but in this camp, they're gasoline on a spark. Cortés holds one of the gold plates up to the sunset, smiling. "Behold," he says, "the treasure of this land. Imagine what the city itself must be." That night, by the firelight, his men talk of nothing but wealth. They argue, drink, and boast of what they'll buy back home. Only one thing stands in their way, the possibility of retreat. Some officers whisper that perhaps they should return to Cuba and await reinforcements. Cortés hears them. The next morning, he calls a meeting and burns the debate to ashes. One by one, the ships are stripped of anything useful. Wood, nails, ropes, and scuttled in the shallows. The sea swallows them whole. When the last mast disappears beneath the waves, Cortés turns to his men and says quietly, "We sail no more. We go forward." It's a moment that becomes legend, though historians still argue whether he burned, sank, or dismantled the ships. The point is the same. No retreat, no turning back. You can feel the collective panic in the camp give way to something harder, resolve, or maybe desperation. Either will serve. Meanwhile, the strange alliance that will make or break the conquest is already forming. The local Totonac people, weary of Aztec taxation, approach the Spaniards with curiosity. They describe the empire's demands: tribute of cotton, maize, and young men for sacrifice. Cortés listens, nodding solemnly, playing the role of liberator rather than invader. "We fight not against you," he says, "but against your oppressors." It's a lie with just enough truth to be believable. Through Malinche's translations, the two sides weave an agreement. The Totonacs will supply food, guides, and porters. The Spaniards will offer protection, meaning guns, steel, and those terrifying horses. The first alliance of conquest is sealed not with treaties, but with shared resentment. You follow Cortés inland through humid forests and across rivers where crocodiles slide silently beneath the surface. The men march in armor that feels like ovens, sweating, swearing, hacking through vines with swords meant for duels, not jungles. The Totonac porters move ahead easily, barefoot and amused. At night, fireflies gather like floating embers. The soldiers sit around their fires, polishing armor that rusts as fast as they clean it. They whisper prayers to saints whose names mean little in this alien land. Every sound of the forest seems to watch them. But Cortés doesn't waver. Each new obstacle becomes proof that God is testing their faith. The harder the road, he tells them, the closer the reward. Malinche listens quietly, always near the fire, her face glowing in the orange light. She's already become indispensable, translating, advising, calming local chiefs. Sometimes she seems almost amused by the Spaniards' arrogance. She knows how little they understand about the power structures they're walking into, but she also knows how to use that ignorance. If survival means siding with Cortés, she'll do it without flinching. As the march continues, they pass villages that fall silent at their approach. Some surrender offerings, others flee. The Spaniards begin to see signs of Aztec authority everywhere. Tribute collectors, tax houses, shrines adorned with skulls. Each one reminds Cortés that the empire's reach is vast but not universally loved. When they reach the city of Zempoala, the local ruler, the Fat Chief, as Spanish accounts call him, welcomes them nervously. He complains of the unbearable demands of Moctezuma's officials. The Spaniards listen with feigned sympathy while secretly calculating how many allies they've just gained. When Aztec tax collectors arrive to demand tribute, even as the foreigners watch, Cortés seizes the opportunity. He arrests the officials on the spot, pretending it's a lawful act of royal justice. The Totonacs cheer. For the first time, they see the Spaniards not as guests, but as liberators. It's a brilliant stroke of psychological warfare. By humiliating Moctezuma's representatives, Cortés sends a message far beyond Zempoala. The Aztec gods can bleed. Still, danger hums beneath every victory. Moctezuma's spies are everywhere, slipping through forests, reporting back to the capital. The emperor now knows the strangers are advancing, gathering allies and desecrating his authority. He orders more envoys to Veracruz with gifts, hoping to buy time or confusion. One delegation brings golden necklaces strung with shells and crabs carved from amber. Another brings a message. Our Lord Moctezuma welcomes you as friends, but begs you not to come to his city. He fears for your safety. Cortés nods gravely and thanks them, while secretly marking the road to Tenochtitlan on his map. Historians still debate Moctezuma's motives. Was he superstitious, believing the newcomers divine, or calculating, hoping to delay confrontation until he could better understand them? Whatever the reason, his caution only feeds Cortés's confidence. To the Spaniards, the emperor's hesitation looks like fear. Back at camp, the men melt down some of the gold gifts into crude ingots for easier transport. The sight of molten treasure running like butter in the firelight sends a shiver through them. Even now, after months in the wilderness, the dream of wealth burns brighter than the jungle heat. One soldier, Andrés de Tapia, writes later that Cortés addressed the men as they worked. "Gentlemen, this is not the time to count our fortune. The treasure of this land lies in its heart, and we shall take it." You imagine the flicker of the flames across his face, the half smile that never quite reaches his eyes. The next morning, as the column prepares to march inland again, Cortés rides to the front. The horses snort and stamp on the packed earth, tails flicking at the flies. He raises his sword toward the distant mountains. "There," he says simply, "lies the road to Mexico." The men cheer, half mad with fatigue, half drunk on destiny. Behind them, the sea glitters like a mirror of everything they've left behind. Spain, safety, mercy. Ahead lies the unknown. The drums of the Aztec Empire throb faintly through the trees. You take one last look back at the coastline. The ships are gone. the horizon empty. For better or worse, there is no going back. The jungle thins and the road ahead hardens into pale dust. You march beside the Spaniards through a corridor of cactus and stone, the humid air of the coast fading into the dry, thin breath of the highlands. The path climbs steeply, twisting toward the mountains that cradle the heart of Mexico. Somewhere beyond those ridges lies the capital of an empire, and the fate of everyone in this story. Cortés rides at the head of the column, his armor dulled by sweat and dust. The Totonac porters trudge behind, balancing crates of supplies, while Malinche walks close enough to catch every order, every curse, every prayer muttered under his breath. Around her, the men glance with mingled awe and suspicion. She's not one of them, not exactly, yet she holds the key to every conversation that matters. After days of marching, the expedition reaches the edge of Tlaxcala, a confederation of fiercely independent city-states surrounded by Aztec territory. For nearly a century, the Tlaxcalans have resisted Tenochtitlan's domination, fighting off invasions with ferocity. They are the empire's eternal thorn, proud and battered, but unbroken. Cortés knows that if he can win them, he'll have the one ally Moctezuma can't afford to lose. But the Tlaxcalans don't exactly roll out a welcome mat. When the Spaniards cross the border, scouts spot warriors in feathered helmets moving among the hills. Within hours, the first ambush falls on them, arrows, stones, and spears erupting from the scrub. The Spaniards answer with musket fire and cannon smoke, but the numbers are overwhelming. For the first time, Cortés's confidence wavers. You crouch behind a tree as obsidian blades flash in the sunlight. The noise is deafening. Drums, conch horns, the metallic shriek of steel against flint. The Tlaxcalans swarm in waves, testing this strange new enemy. The Spaniards form tight ranks, shields locked, horses rearing. Smoke rolls across the plain. Malinche shouts frantic translations amid the chaos, trying to make her voice heard over the din. The fighting drags on for days. Every night, the Spaniards build makeshift barricades and pray for daylight. The Tlaxcalans attack again and again, fearless and unrelenting. The Spanish crossbows and cannons take their toll, but for every warrior who falls, 3 more seem to appear. It's the first real test of Cortés's campaign, and he knows that if the Tlaxcalans don't surrender soon, his men will break. Historians still debate what finally turned the tide. Some say the Spaniards' cavalry, the terrifying sight of men and horses moving as one creature, shattered Tlaxcalan morale. Others believe the Totonac allies intervened to mediate peace. But one detail stands out: Malinche. She negotiates directly with captured warriors, appealing to their hatred of the Aztecs. She tells them the Spaniards too are enemies of Moctezuma. Whether by persuasion or exhaustion, the Tlaxcalans finally agree to talk. Cortés rides into the Tlaxcalan capital under a banner of truce. The city sprawls across a wide valley, its streets alive with color and tension. Thousands of eyes watch from rooftops as the newcomers enter. Men in metal shells, their horses snorting steam. Inside the council hall, the Tlaxcalan elders sit in silence, their faces painted for war. Cortés bows slightly. Through Malinche, he speaks of friendship, alliance, and vengeance against their common foe. The speeches last for hours. The air grows thick with incense and politics. At last, the Tlaxcalans agree. They will ally with the Spaniards against Tenochtitlan. In return, Cortés promises freedom, spoils, and protection. It's the kind of bargain that changes continents. You can almost feel the shift in the air. The ragged expedition, once outnumbered and nearly destroyed, now has thousands of native warriors on its side. The Aztec world begins to tilt. The alliance transforms the camp overnight. Tlaxcalan craftsmen repair the Spaniards' weapons, while their priests perform rituals asking their gods for favor in the coming campaign. The newcomers and their hosts eat, drink, and celebrate uneasily. The Spaniards are fascinated by the locals' customs, especially the communal drinking of pulque, a fermented agave beverage that hits harder than rum. One soldier, barely able to stand, writes in his journal that the Indians are more devout drinkers than Christians. You smile. Some things never change. Cortés, however, keeps his head clear. His next move is psychological. He sends emissaries to nearby cities still loyal to Moctezuma, announcing that the mighty Aztec Empire has new enemies and that even the Tlaxcalans have joined the cause. It's half propaganda, half threat. Word spreads like wildfire. The foreigners are unstoppable, backed by lightning weapons and strange magic. When messengers carry this news to Tenochtitlan, Moctezuma is stunned. The Tlaxcalans, his lifelong enemies, now march with the strangers? He orders priests to perform sacrifices in every temple, begging the gods to protect the empire. But beneath the incense smoke, doubt grows. Meanwhile, Cortés prepares a public demonstration to cement the alliance. In the city square, he erects a large wooden cross beside a newly painted image of the Virgin Mary. He invites the Tlaxcalan nobles to witness it. Through Malinche, he explains that his god demands no blood, only faith. The crowd murmurs uncertainly. Cortés smiles, confident in his message. But what he doesn't realize is that the image of divine love and sacrifice looks eerily familiar to his hosts. To them, the new symbols are not signs of peace but replacements for their own gods. That night, Malinche translates the Tlaxcalan elders' private doubts. "They think your god may be powerful," she tells Cortés softly, "but they don't understand why he forbids blood. They fear the sun will die without it." Cortés sighs. "Then we will show them that the sun needs only one master." For all his charisma, he's still a man of contradictions. Pious and ruthless, charming and cold. You can sense the way faith and ambition blur within him, like two rivers merging into a single muddy current. A few days later, scouts return with word of a great city nearby, Cholula, one of the richest and most devout in the Aztec sphere. Cortés decides to visit. The Tlaxcalans warn him that the city is loyal to Moctezuma, but he waves them off. "If the Cholulans are friends," he says, "they will welcome us. If not, they will learn why Spain rules the seas." Malinche frowns. She's beginning to see where this story is headed. The road from Veracruz to the Valley of Mexico is paved with both faith and fear, and every mile brings the Spaniards closer to a confrontation that will burn them into legend. As you march toward Cholula, the air grows cooler. The twin volcanoes, Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl, loom in the distance, their peaks wreathed in snow and cloud. The ground trembles faintly, as if the gods themselves are restless. Below those mountains lies a city of towers, pyramids, and pilgrims. Cortés looks toward the horizon, his expression unreadable. "There," he murmurs, "is the gateway to the empire." And though no one says it aloud, everyone feels the same chill. The gateway may also be the doorway to hell. The road to Cholula twists through fields of maize and the echo of drums. You can almost smell the smoke from cooking fires, the sweetness of roasting corn, mixing with the metallic scent of anticipation. Cortés and his column march beneath the shadow of volcanoes that scrape the sky. Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl, silent giants watching the collision of worlds unfold below. By the time the Spaniards reach the outskirts of Cholula, the air feels thinner, colder. This is no provincial outpost. It's one of the most sacred cities in all Mesoamerica, home to thousands of priests and to the enormous pyramid of Quetzalcoatl, its slopes buried beneath centuries of earth and vegetation. If you looked from above, you'd think it a hill crowned by temples. In truth, it's a mountain of brick, one of the largest ever built by human hands. The people of Cholula come out to meet the strangers with garlands, drums, and polite ceremony. At least, that's what it looks like. Behind the smiles, something feels off. The Tlaxcalans, marching beside the Spaniards, mutter warnings. They say the city is loyal to Moctezuma, that the feast being prepared might be a trap. Cortés listens, expression unreadable. Then he smiles and says, "Let us see." Historians still argue what truly happened next. Some say the Cholulans planned an ambush, digging pits, hiding weapons, inviting the Spaniards into their city to slaughter them. Others insist that Cortés, paranoid and eager to intimidate, simply imagined the threat. Either way, the outcome is the same: blood. On the second morning in Cholula, Cortés summons the city's nobles and priests to the central courtyard under the pretext of a meeting. They gather, unarmed, surrounded by the Spaniards and their Tlaxcalan allies. Then, at a prearranged signal, the doors close. Cannon fire splits the air. Muskets bark, swords flash. The Tlaxcalans pour in from the streets, cutting down anyone who runs. The courtyard becomes a furnace of screams. Fire spreads from building to building. Some priests rush toward the Great Pyramid, hoping the gods will intervene, but the smoke rises faster than any prayer. You can feel the horror of it, the confusion, the smell of burning flesh, the choking dust. A city sacred for centuries turned overnight into a warning. When the smoke finally clears, hundreds, perhaps thousands, are dead. Cortés stands among the ruins, his armor spattered with soot, and declares the massacre a divine victory. "Thus fall the enemies of Christ," he says. "Let this be known to all who would betray us." It's a chilling performance, but also an unmistakable message. To the Aztecs watching from afar, it's proof that the strangers are ruthless, unpredictable, and terrifyingly efficient. To the Spaniards, it's confirmation that their leader will stop at nothing. Even Malinche, who's seen enough blood to last a lifetime, looks shaken. That night, she speaks softly to Cortés, her voice half warning, half confession. "You have made them fear you, but fear can turn faster than faith." Cortés nods. "Let them hate," he replies, "so long as they obey." It's a line that could have been borrowed from any Roman general, and one that will echo through centuries of conquest. Outside the ruined city, Tlaxcalan warriors celebrate, looting the temples and dragging off prisoners. For them, Cholula's fall is vengeance against a neighbor who once sided with the Aztecs. For Cortés, it's insurance. A demonstration meant to ripple all the way to Tenochtitlan. And ripple it does. Word of the massacre spreads like wildfire through the valleys. Moctezuma's spies carry the tale back to the emperor. The bearded ones have destroyed Cholula, slain its priests, burned its temples, and spared only those who swore allegiance. Panic grips the court. The emperor's counselors urge him to attack, to crush the invaders before they reach the capital. But Moctezuma hesitates. Some say he fears these men might truly be divine messengers. Others that he's trapped between factions, unsure which path will destroy him slower. The omens only grow worse. Freak lightning strikes, strange lights in the sky, and now this massacre at a holy site. It's as if the gods themselves are warning him to wait. You stand beside him in imagination, watching him gaze out from his palace over the lake, the city glittering like a dream. He whispers to a priest, "If these men are gods, we must honor them. If they are not, the gods will reveal it soon enough." Either way, inaction feels safer than risk. Back on the road, the Spaniards continue their climb toward the Valley of Mexico. The devastation of Cholula smolders behind them, yet the land ahead opens into a vista so breathtaking it almost makes you forget what they've done to get here. From the high pass near Iztaccíhuatl, you see it for the first time. The valley, stretching wide and green, encircled by mountains. Lakes shimmer in the distance, and at the center of them all, like a jewel on dark velvet, lies Tenochtitlan. A city of stone and water, bridges and canals, shining temples that seem to float above the lake. Even the battle-hardened Spaniards gasp. Bernal Diaz, one of the soldiers, will later write that, "We were struck with admiration, for we had never seen such things before." He means it literally. To men who came from muddy European towns, Tenochtitlan looks like a vision from heaven. Or maybe, given how this story goes, a mirage before the fall. Moctezuma, still torn between fear and curiosity, makes his decision. He sends emissaries once more, bearing flowers, food, and fine robes, and an invitation. "My lord wishes to meet you," they say, bowing low before Cortés. And that's how it happens. The emperor who commands millions and the mutineer who commands hundreds are now on a collision course. The Aztecs' god king and Spain's would-be conqueror will soon stand face to face, each seeing in the other something he can't quite name. As night falls over the valley, Cortés looks down at the glittering lights of the island city. "Behold," he whispers to his officers, "the great Mexico. It's beautiful, terrifying, and impossibly fragile. You almost wish you could freeze the moment here, before the disease, before the siege, before the fall, before the world breaks." But history doesn't pause for beauty. The next morning, the army begins its descent toward the causeways. Mist curls off the lake like a ghostly curtain as you descend the mountain road. The air grows cooler, the wind scented with water and stone. Ahead, the causeway stretches toward an island that seems to hover above the lake's surface. Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Aztec world. Even after months of marching, fighting, and betrayal, the Spaniards fall silent at the sight. You can see why. Canals shimmer like ribbons of glass. White temples rise from gardens of green. Canoes glide in orderly lines, steered by men in cotton tunics. The city seems less built than grown, a lotus floating in the middle of a mirror, and at the very center, towering above everything else, the twin shrines of the Templo Mayor, where the gods of war and rain gaze across their empire. Bernal Diaz would later write that, "We stood as men enchanted, doubting whether what we saw was not a dream." You feel that too, the dizziness of awe and dread, because you know what's coming, even if they don't. The procession moves slowly across the causeway. Cortés rides at the head, his armor gleaming in the weak sunlight, flanked by his cavalry. Behind him march the musketeers and pikemen, the Totonac porters, and thousands of Tlaxcalan warriors carrying banners. Malinche walks close to him, calm but alert, her eyes scanning every movement on the causeway. At the far end, a royal escort waits. Hundreds of nobles, richly dressed, their cloaks embroidered with turquoise and gold. And at their center stands Moctezuma II. It's hard to imagine two men more different or more alike. Cortés, restless, pragmatic, hungry for glory. Moctezuma, ceremonial, devout, haunted by prophecy. Yet both believe themselves chosen by fate. When they meet, the world seems to hold its breath. Moctezuma steps forward, adorned in jade and quetzal feathers, his face calm but pale. Cortés dismounts, removes his helmet, and bows slightly. Through Malinche's translation, the emperor greets him as an honored guest, even, some accounts say, as an incarnation of the god Quetzalcoatl returned from the east. Cortés responds with a speech about his king across the sea and the true faith of Christ. Neither man fully understands the other, but both recognize power when they see it. Cortés places a necklace of glass beads around Moctezuma's neck. The emperor in turn drapes Cortés with a chain of golden crabs. The exchange looks ceremonial, but you can almost see the invisible line being drawn between conqueror and conquered. The procession enters the city. Citizens line the causeways in stunned silence, watching these pale strangers with their metal skins and fire-breathing weapons. Children hide behind their mothers. Priests mutter prayers. The clang of armor echoes against the temple walls, an alien sound in a sacred place. Moctezuma leads his guests through wide boulevards to his palace, a vast complex with gardens, aviaries, and fountains that run with clear water from the aqueducts. The Spaniards stare at the courtyards filled with exotic animals, jaguars pacing behind wooden bars, bright birds flitting in golden cages, serpents coiled like ornaments. It feels like stepping into a dream drawn by two different gods. Cortés acts the courteous guest. He praises the architecture, marvels at the markets, listens politely to the priests. But his eyes keep drifting toward the glitter of gold everywhere, in jewelry, in goblets, even in the paint on the temple walls. To him, it's not decoration, it's destiny. The emperor, meanwhile, plays host with uneasy grace. He provides food, lodging, and interpreters. Every gesture is measured, every smile brittle. You can sense the strain of a man who believes politeness might still control catastrophe. At night, he consults his diviners, demanding to know if these strangers are human. The answers are no comfort. Historians still argue whether Moctezuma's behavior was driven by superstition or strategy. Some think he hoped to keep the Spaniards close where he could watch them. Others see fatalism, a ruler who believed the end was preordained. Whatever the reason, by inviting Cortés into the heart of his city, he effectively opened the gates of his empire. For several days, the uneasy peace holds. The Spaniards explore Tenochtitlan in awe. They walk its marketplaces, where tens of thousands trade maize, obsidian, chocolate, and jade. They note the cleanliness of the streets, the orderliness of the crowds, the absence of beggars. Even Cortés admits in his letters that no European city could compare. But admiration quickly turns to calculation. He sees the city's vulnerabilities, the causeways that can be cut, the aqueducts that supply its water, the dependence on tribute from conquered provinces. Every marvel becomes a potential weakness in his mind. Then there's the gold. The emperor shows them the royal treasury, a room filled with ornaments, statues, and jewelry. The sight drives the Spaniards nearly mad with greed. They try to hide it, but not well enough. Moctezuma notices their stares and grows more uneasy. Cortés, sensing the tension, decides to act before it turns against him. Under the pretext of protecting his men, he orders Moctezuma confined within his own palace. The emperor is too stunned to resist. Surrounded by armed guards, the divine ruler of the Aztec Empire becomes a hostage in his own house. The city murmurs, disbelieving. Priests whisper that the sun itself will grow weak if the emperor's freedom is not restored. But Moctezuma, always cautious, tells his people not to rebel. He insists he's cooperating voluntarily, that peace must be maintained. Whether he truly believes it or is simply too frightened to test Cortés's resolve, no one can tell. Inside the palace, Cortés treats his prisoner with formal respect. He allows Moctezuma his attendance, his meals, his rituals. But every order now passes through Spanish lips. Cortés demands tribute, repairs, even the dismantling of Aztec idols to make way for Christian symbols. The moment the cross and the Virgin's image appear beside the shrines of the gods, the city's patience begins to crack. Priests wail that the foreigners have desecrated the sacred. Crowds gather in the streets. Tension thickens like humidity before a storm. Still, Cortés presses on, believing audacity will keep fear at bay. He even has the nerve to execute one of Moctezuma's generals for plotting revolt, carrying out the sentence within sight of the emperor himself, so that all may know, he says coldly, that justice rules even over kings. Malinche translates his words without flinching, though later she will tell a soldier, "You can chain a king, but not his people." For now, the strange charade continues. Cortés plays protector, Moctezuma plays host. The Spaniards dine on roasted turkey and cacao served in golden cups, pretending this arrangement is civilized. Outside, the city trembles with rage it can't yet unleash. And somewhere in the distance, sails appear once more on the coast. New ships, carrying soldiers, sent by Panfilo de Narváez, Velázquez's man, with orders to arrest Cortés for mutiny. The hunter is about to be hunted. You glance at Cortés that evening as he gazes west from the palace balcony, the lights of Tenochtitlan reflected in the lake below. He's trapped himself inside the most beautiful city in the world, holding its emperor hostage, surrounded by people who hate him, and now another Spanish army is coming to drag him home in chains. He exhales slowly and murmurs to no one in particular, "Then we will have to fight Spaniards before we can rule Indians." And somehow, you know he means it. The night air of Tenochtitlan hums with tension, like a drawn bow that refuses to release. You can hear the lake lapping softly against the causeways, the distant cry of night birds, the faint ring of armor being adjusted by uneasy men. It's late in the spring of 1520, and Hernán Cortés's impossible balancing act is beginning to unravel. Inside the palace, Moctezuma still moves with ghostly grace. Technically a host, practically a captive. He's allowed to stroll through his gardens, to speak with priests and relatives, but always under watch. The Spaniards bow when they pass him, but everyone knows who commands whom. Sometimes he sits silently by the window, gazing toward the twin peaks of Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl, the volcanoes that have watched empires rise and fall. He no longer speaks of omens. The God King has run out of prophecies. Then one evening, a breathless messenger bursts through the palace gates. Ships, more ships, have been sighted on the eastern coast, dozens of them. Cortés listens in silence as the man describes the sails, the banners, the armored men disembarking. The name on every soldier's lips, Panfilo de Narvaez, the governor's hound, sent from Cuba with orders to seize him for rebellion. You can almost hear the gears in Cortés's mind turning. He's trapped in the middle of a hostile city with fewer than 200 loyal Spaniards, surrounded by hundreds of thousands of potential enemies. And now his own countrymen are coming to arrest him. For most people, this would qualify as an endgame. For Cortés, it's Tuesday. He acts instantly. Leaving Pedro de Alvarado in charge of Tenochtitlan with roughly 80 men, he gathers his best troops and slips out of the city under cover of night. The canoes glide silently across the lake, their torches reflected in black water like stars caught in a mirror. Behind them, the captive emperor watches from his balcony, his face unreadable. The march to the coast takes days. The roads wind through valleys now thick with fear and rumor. Cortés's small force moves fast, relying on Tlaxcalan guides and bluff. Somewhere near Zempoala, they spot the flicker of campfires, Narvaez's army. Almost 900 men, fresh from Cuba, well supplied and itching to collect the bounty on a traitor. Most leaders would surrender. Cortés instead walks straight into the lion's den. He sends envoys to Narvaez's camp with gifts and honeyed words, playing the diplomat. His goal isn't battle, it's bribery. You serve the same king I do, his messengers say. Why fight when there is gold and glory enough for all? Narvaez isn't impressed. Tell your master, he sneers, that I'll send him to Cuba in chains. Cortés smiles when he hears this. Chains are heavy, gold is lighter. He sends more envoys, this time carrying both promises and purses. Slowly, quietly, Narvaez's soldiers begin to drift toward him. A little silver here, a little rumor there. The governor's men start to doubt their commander's cause. Then, under a storm-soaked sky, Cortés strikes. His smaller force attacks at midnight, thunder masking the sound of their advance. Cannons roar, rain lashes, confusion reigns. Within an hour, Narvaez is captured, his eye put out by a pike, and his army surrenders. It's the kind of victory that shouldn't be possible, and yet it happens. When dawn breaks, Cortés stands before nearly 1,000 men who yesterday came to arrest him and today swear loyalty to his banner. You almost have to admire the audacity. He's turned disaster into reinforcement. But while he's been rewriting the rules on the coast, Tenochtitlan has begun to burn. A messenger arrives from Alvarado, soaked in blood and rain. His voice trembles as he recounts what happened. During Cortés's absence, the Aztecs held a festival in honor of the god Huitzilopochtli. Dancers filled the temple courtyard, nobles, warriors, priests, singing to the rhythm of drums. Alvarado, suspecting rebellion, sealed the gates and ordered his men to attack. The massacre that followed defies imagination. Drums still beat as swords fell. The plaza ran red. The music stopped only when there was no one left to sing. You close your eyes and can almost hear it. The sudden silence after chaos. A sacred ceremony turned slaughter. Whatever fragile peace Cortés had built is now ashes. He leaves most of his new troops behind and races back to the capital with 200 chosen men. When he reaches the causeway, the air itself feels heavier. Smoke rises from the temples. Crowds glare from the bridges. The lake's surface ripples with canoes carrying armed warriors. Inside the city, Alvarado's men are exhausted, surrounded, terrified. They greet Cortés with relief and shame. "I thought they were plotting revolt," Alvarado says weakly. "I struck first." Cortés doesn't reply. His jaw tightens, his knuckles whiten. He knows there's no undoing what's been done. Moctezuma meets him in the courtyard, still wearing the crown but visibly diminished. "Why?" the emperor whispers. "You promised peace." Cortés's answer is cold. "Then tell your people to stop this madness." Outside, the madness is just beginning. Crowds gather around the palace, hurling stones and curses. The air smells of sweat, incense, and impending war. For days, the Spaniards are besieged. They reinforce the walls, ration food, melt down gold to make portable bars. Aztec warriors scale rooftops and hurl spears from every direction. The noise never stops. Drums, whistles, the eerie shriek of conch horns. It's like the city itself is screaming. Cortés plays his last desperate card. He orders Moctezuma to speak to his people, to calm them. The emperor climbs the palace balcony, flanked by guards. His voice carries across the square, pleading for peace, reminding them that these strangers are guests. But the crowd's fury has outgrown him. Stones and darts fly upward. One strikes his head, another pierces his side. He collapses, bleeding, the divine aura shattered. Within days, Moctezuma dies. Some say of wounds, others of despair. Historians still argue which story is true, but it hardly matters. The empire's heart has stopped beating. Inside the palace, silence settles like dust. The Spaniards hold a council. There's no food, no allies, no hope. Cortés looks at his men and says the only thing that can be said: we must escape. Preparations begin in grim silence. They build portable bridges to cross the canals and gather whatever loot they can carry. Some soldiers, unable to resist greed, stuff themselves with gold until their armor bulges. Cortés says nothing. He knows hunger is stronger than discipline. Then, on the night of June 30th, 1520, the skies open with rain. Under cover of darkness, the column slips out of the palace, crossing the causeway north toward Tlacopan. The rain muffles their footsteps. They move in silence. Horses, porters, wounded, all carrying the weight of stolen gold and broken pride. Halfway across, a woman's cry pierces the night. An alarm. Drums explode across the city. The lake erupts with torches. Hundreds of canoes gliding toward the causeway. Arrows hiss through the rain. The bridge collapses under the weight of men and treasure. Chaos. You can almost feel the cold water swallowing armor-laden soldiers as they tumble into the lake. Their screams vanishing beneath the thunder. Horses thrash, drowning. Muskets misfire. Gold drags men down like stones. Cortés fights his way across, wounded, drenched, half-blind with mud and grief. By dawn, only a fraction of his army remains. He stands on the far shore, stares back at the burning city, and weeps. Later, they'll call it La Noche Triste, the night of sorrows. For the Aztecs, it's a triumph, proof that their gods still favor them. For Cortés, it's not the end. It's the beginning of vengeance. As the survivors limp toward Tlaxcala, carrying little more than their lives, Malinche walks beside Cortés in silence. After a while, she says softly, "You've lost everything." He shakes his head. "No," he murmurs, "not everything. I still have you, and the world still turns." And somewhere far behind them, beneath the rain and smoke, the once radiant city of Tenochtitlan waits for their return. The road away from Tenochtitlan becomes a trail of ghosts. The rain has stopped, but the sky still hangs low and gray, like the lid of a coffin. Mud sucks at your boots with every step. All around you are the survivors, soaked, wounded, half-starved, limping through the marshes of the valley. The lucky ones carry spears. The unlucky carry memories. This is the aftermath of La Noche Triste, and it looks nothing like victory. Out of more than 1,000 men who entered the city, barely 400 Spaniards remain alive, along with a few thousand native allies from Tlaxcala and Totonac. The rest? Gone. Lost to the lake, to arrows, to the weight of greed. The gold they had melted into bars now lies scattered at the bottom of the canals, gleaming faintly through the mud. Cortés rides near the front, silent. His armor is dented, his beard streaked with blood. The bravado that once burned in his eyes has dimmed, but not vanished. Behind him, Malinche walks barefoot through the mud, translating, organizing, keeping the remnants together. She says little. No one else dares speak at all. When the sun finally rises, its light is almost cruel. From a nearby hill, you can look back and see the lake, the great city floating on its waters, the temples catching fire in the dawn. Smoke curls upward like a prayer for the dead. For the Aztecs, the night's victory feels like divine justice. For the Spaniards, it feels like a sentence. But Cortés doesn't plan to die in retreat. He halts his men, raises his sword toward the smoking city, and swears, quietly but firmly, that he will return. It's not bravado anymore, it's obsession. They march north toward Otumba, hoping to reach Tlaxcala where their allies might shelter them. But the road ahead is not empty. The Aztec army is waiting. Thousands of warriors, painted in bright red and black, line the hills. Banners ripple in the wind. The drums start, a deep rolling thunder that you can feel in your ribs. The Spaniards form up on the plain, horses trembling beneath their riders. They're outnumbered 20-1. Many have no helmets, no armor, no food. Some are still bleeding from the escape. You can almost taste the fear in the air. Then Cortés does something insane. He orders a charge. The cavalry surges forward, lances lowered, shouting the name of St. James. Musketeers fire into the mass of warriors, smoke curling upward. The Aztecs swarm, trying to pull riders from their horses, hacking with obsidian blades. The ground becomes a churn of mud, blood, and bodies. Cortés spots the Aztec commander, resplendent in jaguar skin and feathers, carrying the banner that directs the army. Without hesitation, he spurs his horse through the melee, cuts down the guards, and drives his lance straight through the commander's chest. The banner falls. The Aztec ranks falter. Confusion ripples outward like a shockwave. For a moment, silence. Then the Spaniards roar and press the attack. The warriors, seeing their leader dead and their gods seemingly silent, begin to retreat. Within an hour, the plain of Otumba belongs to the survivors. Historians still argue whether this was divine intervention, tactical brilliance, or sheer luck. Maybe it was all three. What matters is that Cortés, against every probability, lives to fight another day. When they finally limp into Tlaxcala, the locals meet them not as conquerors, but as comrades. The Tlaxcalans have also suffered heavy losses, yet their hatred for the Aztecs burns hotter than grief. Their council offers refuge and aid. Rest, their elder says. The gods have tested you and found you worthy. The Spaniards collapse in exhaustion. For weeks they heal, rebuild, and plan. Wounds fester. Fever kills many, but slowly strength returns. Smiths hammer out new armor from scraps. Soldiers teach Tlaxcalan warriors the art of sword and pike formations. Priests rebuild the small chapel, raising a crude cross over the town square. Cortés spends long hours alone, writing letters to the king, insisting the disaster was temporary, the conquest inevitable. He's already spinning the story for posterity. Though beaten, he writes, we were not defeated, for God had preserved us for his purpose. It's the kind of sentence that would make any editor proud, and any soldier roll his eyes. Malinche reads the draft silently, her face unreadable. She knows what the letters don't say, that much of the preserved army consists of broken men haunted by nightmares. But she also knows something Cortés perhaps doesn't yet, that the empire they fled is bleeding in ways unseen. Because while the Spaniards rest, another killer moves through the valley. The smallpox that arrived months earlier with one of Narvaez's men has spread like fire through dry grass. The disease leaps from village to village, from the coast to the capital. There are no words for it in Nahuatl. The Aztecs call it Huezahuatl, the Great Rash. You can imagine the horror. Fevers that melt strength into delirium, skin erupting in sores, entire families dying in days. Priests burn incense and pray to the gods of healing, but nothing works. Bodies pile up faster than they can be buried. The smell of death rolls over the valley. In Tenochtitlan, the epidemic hits hardest. The city that seemed eternal becomes a charnel house. Half its population dies within months. Even nobles and priests fall. The disease kills Cuauhtémoc, Moctezuma's brother and successor, after only a few weeks on the throne. The empire's chain of command fractures. The Spaniards in Tlaxcala don't know the full extent yet, but they hear whispers, reports of villages abandoned, tribute halted, armies too weak to muster. When scouts return with news that the once mighty capital is now filled with sickness and mourning, Cortés sees his opening. "We'll rebuild," he tells his officers, "and this time we won't walk into their city. We'll take it." Reconstruction begins with feverish purpose. More Tlaxcalans join his cause, eager for revenge and plunder. Timber is gathered, weapons forged, and for the first time, shipwrights begin to construct small brigantines, flat-bottomed boats that can be dismantled and carried to the lake, then reassembled for battle on the water. The idea is audacious, but so is the man. By early 1521, the army is reborn. Nearly 1,000 Spaniards and tens of thousands of native allies march toward the lake once more. They carry cannons, crossbows, and faith that borders on madness. Along the way, towns that once paid tribute to Tenochtitlan now open their gates willingly, preferring Spanish steel to Aztec taxes. You ride among them, feeling the strange mix of exhaustion and determination. These men have been through hell and come back with a map. The laughter that echoes through the campfires now isn't joy. It's disbelief at their own survival. One night, as the volcano glows faintly in the distance, Cortés sits apart from the others, sharpening his sword. "I lost everything in that city," he murmurs to Malinche, "and everything I lost, I'll take back double." She looks at him for a long time. Even if it kills them all, he doesn't look up, especially then. The next morning, the army moves. The road to Tenochtitlan stretches before them again. Same mountains, same lake, same glittering towers in the distance. But this time, the drums that once sang for the empire sound weaker, slower. The empire itself is dying, and its conqueror is on his way home. The march back toward Tenochtitlan begins under a sun as white and pitiless as bone. The road winds through burned villages and fields gone to seed. You can tell smallpox has already been here. Empty huts, abandoned temples, silence where there should be drums. Even the birds seem cautious, circling above in uneasy loops. Cortés rides ahead, flanked by banners stitched from both Spanish silk and Tlaxcalan cotton. Around him moves an army unlike anything the world has ever seen. Perhaps 1,000 Spaniards and more than 70,000 native allies. Tlaxcalans, Totonacs, Huexotzincas, all bound together by revenge and opportunity. Their columns stretch for miles, kicking up a haze of dust that glows red in the sunset. Behind the main force, carpenters and shipwrights guide carts loaded with timber and iron fittings. These are the parts of the brigantines, the small warships Cortés has built to dominate the lake once they reach it. Each plank has been numbered and oiled, each nail carried by hand. The plan is mad, dragging boats through mountains, but somehow, under his relentless drive, it feels inevitable. They pass through towns that once feared the Aztecs. Now the people bring food and tribute to the Spaniards. Cortés accepts each offering with practiced humility, murmuring about justice and liberation. Malinche translates his words with the poise of a queen, but when she catches your eye, there's an exhaustion in her face. She knows what liberation will soon look like. When they reach the hilltops overlooking the valley, the soldiers fall silent, Below them, the lake spreads out like a sheet of silver, and in its heart lies Tenochtitlan, still magnificent, but scarred. Smoke drifts from neighborhoods, half abandoned. Whole districts look empty. The once mighty causeways are dotted with barricades, and where the temples once shone with color, the stone now seems dull and weathered, as if the gods themselves are tired. Even from here, you can feel the ghost of the old grandeur. It's hard to reconcile this fragile-looking city with the roaring power that once ruled the valleys. Yet Cortés studies it like a hunter watching wounded prey. "We'll surround it," he says quietly. "Cut off the head, and the body will die." The siege begins in early May 1521. Cortés splits his forces into 3 camps, one on each of the causeways leading to the city, Tacuba, Iztapalapa, and Tepeyacac, and another across the lake itself. His new brigantines, once assembled, will control the water and block supplies. The plan is elegant, cold, and absolute. The first weeks are chaos. The Aztecs, now led by Emperor Cuauhtémoc, the young and defiant successor of the fallen Moctezuma, refused to yield. They fortified the causeways, rebuilt bridges, and turned the canals into kill zones. Every day, the Spaniards advance a few yards, only to be driven back by waves of canoes filled with warriors. Arrows darken the air, stones crash down from rooftops. The lake itself becomes a battlefield. When the brigantines are launched, their sails catch the wind like white wings, gliding across the water to chase down Aztec canoes. Cannon fire echoes from the shore, and the shock of it rolls across the lake like thunder. The wooden hulls splinter. Warriors dive into the water, swimming or sinking depending on luck. You can imagine the sound: gunpowder, screaming, and the strange, almost serene splash of bodies hitting water. The Spaniards cheer, convinced their machines will finish the job, but the Aztecs adapt. They fight from under the causeways, ambushing ships that venture too close, dragging soldiers into the depths. They use smoke to hide their movements, fire to drive the invaders back. Each day feels like a cycle of triumph and horror. Streets once paved with song are now paved with corpses. In one early assault, Cortés himself is captured in the chaos. Warriors drag him from his horse, tying his arms, preparing to haul him to the temple for sacrifice. A few of his men see and charge desperately into the fray. They save him at the last moment, but not without cost. When he stands again, gasping, half his rescuers lie dead. That night, by the campfires, he says nothing. He just stares across the lake, toward the temple where he knows captives are being killed. You can almost feel the shift in him. The moment compassion burns away, leaving only steel. Days turn into weeks. The siege tightens. The brigantines patrol the lake, cutting off supplies. The causeways are hacked apart and rebuilt, fought over inch by inch. Each morning, Aztec drums call the warriors to battle. Each night, Spanish trumpets answer from the hills. The soundscape of apocalypse. Inside the city, starvation begins to take hold. Food runs out, then water. The aqueduct from Chapultepec has been destroyed. People drink from the lake itself, brackish and foul. Smallpox still smolders through the population, leaving pockmarked survivors who stumble through the ruins. Cuauhtémoc walks among them, calm and resolute, promising that the gods will yet deliver them, but even he must know the truth. By July, the city is dying. The canals are clogged with wreckage, the temples blackened with soot. The Spaniards advance through rubble, street by street, burning as they go. The smell, smoke, rot, salt water, and death is thick enough to taste. Malinche moves between camps, negotiating surrenders with towns that once fed the capital. Her voice, once strong, now trembles. They have children, she tells Cortés quietly one night. They are eating bark, rats, even grass. End it. He looks at her, eyes hollow. I didn't start this war, he says, but I'll finish it. Historians still debate whether that line is truth or justification. Either way, it's the mantra of empire. By early August, Only the western districts of Tenochtitlan still hold out. Cuauhtémoc commands the last defenders from a network of canals and bridges, refusing every offer of surrender. He's barely 25, exhausted, barefoot, and already immortal. Better to die with honor, he tells his captains, than to live as slaves. The final assault begins at dawn on August 13, 1521. The brigantines close from the lake, while infantry push along the causeways. Cannon smoke turns the sunrise gray. The surviving Aztec warriors fight from rooftops, from canoes, even from the water, using whatever weapons remain: stones, sticks, broken blades. Women throw rocks from windows, children shout curses. It takes hours to crush the last resistance. When silence finally falls, the city no longer resembles a city at all, just shattered stone rising from mud. The air is heavy with ash and the buzzing of flies. Cortés stands in what used to be the marketplace, surrounded by ruins. Then, a commotion stirs near the lake. Soldiers drag forward a young man in regal rags, Cuauhtémoc, captured while trying to flee by canoe. He's bound but unbowed, his eyes burning with quiet fury. Cortés approaches him, lowering his helmet in respect. "You are Cuauhtémoc?" "I am," the emperor replies. His voice is steady, despite the ruin all around. "Take the dagger in your hand," he says coldly, "and end me now." Cortés hesitates. For a moment, you see genuine admiration. Two men who understand each other perfectly, each a mirror of the other's will. Then he shakes his head. "You will live," he says. "New Spain needs a king to end the old one." Cuauhtémoc says nothing more. The conquest is over. The empire that once commanded millions has been reduced to rubble, its gods silenced, its streets drowned. The survivors are enslaved, the temples turned into churches. Cortés is named Captain General of New Spain, a title that sounds like triumph but feels hollow when spoken aloud. You look out across the lake. Smoke curls where gardens once bloomed. The water is choked with driftwood and bones. The sound of drums is gone. Only the gulls remain, circling above a city that has forgotten how to sing. And somewhere deep in your chest, you know this isn't an ending. It's the beginning of something vast and complicated, beautiful and terrible. The seed of a new world planted in ashes. The smoke from the ruined temples drifts for days, curling above the lake like a warning written to the heavens. You watch it fade into the blue until it becomes part of the sky itself. The war is finished, but the silence that follows feels heavier than the drums that came before. Cortés stands among the rubble, his armor dulled to a gray sheen. The air is so still that every breath sounds like a trespass. Around him move soldiers with shovels, priests with crosses, and hundreds of enslaved workers clearing the corpses from canals that once carried flowers. Even the gulls avoid the city's center. The stench is too thick, the ghosts too loud. The fall of Tenochtitlan isn't just a conquest, it's an ending that echoes like thunder. Cuauhtémoc, the last emperor, is bound in chains, but when Cortés looks at him, he sees not a prisoner, but a reflection. Both men gambled their worlds and lost something sacred. Cortés won the field, yet his eyes hold the same exhaustion as the defeated kings. In the following weeks, the survivors stumble through the ruins, trying to make sense of what remains. The temples are pulled down stone by stone. The idols are smashed and replaced with crucifixes. Spanish priests raised the first church on the site of the Templo Mayor, its bell tolling through streets that still smell of smoke and salt water. To the Tlaxcalan allies, this is the fulfillment of vengeance. To the Aztecs, it is the silence of gods who have turned away. Malinche moves through it all like a shadow, neither conqueror nor conquered, her face unreadable. She speaks for both sides, but her words fall differently on each ear. To the Spaniards, she is their interpreter and savior. To many of the surviving Aztecs, she is la traidora, the betrayer. But you can tell she carries no illusions. There are no victors, she murmurs once, watching a church rise from the ashes of a temple. Only those who write the story. Cortés begins the rebuilding at once. He orders new streets, new plazas, and new walls. European geometry imposed on a shattered landscape. The city will be called Mexico Tenochtitlan, the capital of a new dominion he names New Spain. It's a name meant to promise order, but it's really about possession. Everything, from the soil to the souls, now belongs to the crown of Castile. Historians still argue how much of this vision was Cortés's and how much was improvisation. But to the men who follow him, he already feels larger than life. Letters flow back to Europe describing miracles. A handful of Christians defeating an empire of heathens. Banners of Christ flying over the ruins of idolatry. No one mentions smallpox or starvation, or the tens of thousands of native warriors who made it possible. In Spain, the emperor will call it providence. In the Valley of Mexico, they call it survival. The months that follow are strange, half dream, half nightmare. Spanish colonists arrive from the coast, bringing livestock, seeds, and bureaucracy. The first bricks of colonial government are laid in the bones of the old city. The canals are drained, the gardens repurposed, the palaces turned into administrative buildings. Gold from the temples is melted down into coins bearing the king's face. The language of Nahuatl still fills the markets, but its words now mix with Castilian curses. And beneath the surface, the old gods sleep uneasily. Cuauhtémoc is kept alive, at first as a symbol of peace, later as a warning. Cortés brings him along on his expeditions to the south, claiming he's a trusted advisor. The young emperor endures it with quiet dignity until, accused of plotting rebellion, he's tortured and executed. Legend says he looked his captors in the eye and said, "Am I on a bed of roses?" before the flames touched his feet. The Empire of the Sun dies like its emperor. Proud, defiant, refusing to beg. You wander through the reconstructed streets months later and find strange juxtapositions. A friar preaches the gospel where once stood the altar of Huitzilopochtli. Spanish soldiers drink cacao thickened with honey, pretending it's coffee. Native women carry infants with pale eyes and copper skin, new lives born of conquest and survival. The mingling of bloodlines begins, quietly, irreversibly. It's tempting to see this as destiny, but destiny is just hindsight wearing a crown. The truth is messier. The conquest happened not because of divine will or superior weapons alone, but because the world was already cracked along its own lines. Alliances, hatreds, epidemics, accidents. Cortés simply walked through the gaps. He writes again to the king, describing the new land in breathless detail, its fertile valleys, its wealth, its docile natives. Every sentence hums with justification. You can almost hear the quill scraping across parchment as he invents the myth of heroism that will echo for centuries. But when he's alone, perhaps he remembers the night rain of La Noche Triste, the screams on the causeway, the faces of men sinking beneath the lake, weighted by gold. History won't record those memories. It prefers triumphs. And so the chronicles begin. The age of conquest, the expansion of empire, the fusion of worlds. The Aztec calendar ends. The European one continues. The songs of the old gods fade into whispers told by grandmothers over fires, disguised as legends, so they won't be punished as blasphemy. You sit on the edge of the new plaza and watch the first mass being held. The priest raises the host, sunlight glinting off the chalice. Behind him, the ruins of the old temple form the foundation of the church. The congregation bows their heads. Some cross themselves. Others close their eyes and whisper older prayers under their breath. Two faiths sharing one silence. Cortés watches from the steps of the palace. His face betrays no emotion. To his soldiers, he's the conqueror who defied kings and defeated gods. To his enemies, he's the man who turned paradise into purgatory. To himself, maybe he's still that restless hidalgo from Extremadura, chasing fortune to the edge of the world. Malinche stands beside him, her son in her arms, a child born of two worlds, carrying the future in his blood. She looks up at the cross, then down at the rubble beneath it, and says softly, "The world has changed its skin." And she's right. The drums of Tenochtitlan are silent, but their rhythm lingers. In the language, the faces, the names that survive. Mexico will rise from these ashes, not as the empire that was, nor as the colony Cortés dreams of, but as something in between, a mosaic of loss and rebirth. For now, though, the city sleeps beneath its scars. The conquistadors celebrate, the priests preach, and the lake reflects a sky untroubled by guilt. The empire of the sun has fallen. The empire of the cross has begun. The year turns quietly, the lake smoothing itself back into silver. From a distance, the city almost looks whole again. New walls glinting in sunlight, scaffolds clinging to temples, half reborn as churches. But when you walk its streets, you hear the hollow ring of an empire rebuilt on bones. Cortés now styles himself Captain General of New Spain. His letters cross the ocean packed with promises, rich harvests, docile converts, endless veins of gold. Each dispatch grows grander, each miracle more polished. In Seville, they call him the Second Alexander. In Veracruz, he still sleeps with a dagger under his pillow. Power never feels secure when it's stolen. Around him gathers a new class of Spaniards, officials, merchants, friars, each eager to carve a share of this new world. Bureaucracy replaces the battlefield. Edicts flutter like banners in the wind. Laws of tribute, of land, of baptism. The parchment empire begins. And yet the old rhythms pulse beneath it all. On feast days, you hear the Nahuali flutes in back alleys, masked dancers moving in time to drums that are supposed to be banned. The friars pretend not to see. They call it folk devotion, a harmless echo. But the melody slips between languages, part hymn, part memory. The gods, it seems, have learned to whisper in Latin. Malinche fades from official stories almost immediately. Cortés marries a Spanish noblewoman, as politics demand, and sends his interpreter and her son to a quiet estate near the coast. She becomes rumor, the serpent, the mother, the bridge. Her name will twist through centuries until it means both betrayal and birth. You wish you could tell her that every empire builds its myths from those it leaves behind. Cuauhtémoc, meanwhile, vanishes into legend the harder the Spaniards try to erase him. To the survivors of Tenochtitlan, his name becomes a prayer, our fallen eagle who will rise again. When Cortés drags him along on campaigns to Honduras, even bound in chains, people kneel as he passes. A few years later, accused of treachery, he's executed under a jungle sky. The Spaniards bury him in a shallow grave, but the story refuses to stay buried. Heroes, after all, are soil for nations. The transformation of the land quickens. Fields once sown with maize now bristle with wheat. Herds of cattle and sheep graze where chinampas once floated. Spanish stone cuts the horizon. Forts, monasteries, aqueducts. The sound of hammers replaces drums. The air smells of lime dust and wet plaster. Still, you sense unease in Cortés himself. Wealth gathers around him, but gratitude from the crown does not. The emperor in far-off Spain grows wary of heroes who make their own kingdoms. Investigators arrive to audit his fortunes, to question his right to rule. Cortés receives them with stiff courtesy, then gallops into the countryside, inspecting mines and missions as if motion alone could prove innocence. He's aging now, lines deepened by sun and guilt, beard streaked with white. Sometimes when he looks across the rebuilt city, he mutters, "I gave them a world, and they gave me suspicion." Perhaps he's right. Perhaps that's how conquest always ends. In the plazas, friars preach salvation to crowds of converted nobles, sprinkling holy water over heads that once wore eagle feathers. Behind them, Spanish soldiers lounge in the shade, their armor traded for linen shirts. The difference between conqueror and colonist has become thin as dust. You stop by the lake one evening. Children splash in the shallows, laughing, their voices echoing between half-drowned pyramids. A fisherman hums an old song under his breath, the same rhythm that once called warriors to battle. He sings it softly, as though to the water itself. The empire, for all its violence, has given birth to something strange and undeniable. A new people, not Spaniard, not Mexica, but both. Brown-skinned, black-haired, carrying rosaries carved from obsidian. Their language shifts daily, Spanish verbs folding into Nahuatl nouns, words like mestizo, patria, memoria, taking shape centuries before they'll have meaning. Historians will argue forever over what the conquest truly meant: apocalypse or transformation, tragedy or genesis. Standing here, you realize it was all of them. The Aztecs' pyramids became foundations, their gods, metaphors, their blood, inheritance. Out of destruction came mixture, and out of mixture came identity. And Cortés? He will sail home years later, heavy with gold and bitterness, petitioning a king who barely remembers his name. He'll die in Spain, far from the lake that once reflected his ambition. His bones returned only after his legend has grown too large to ignore. But the city he claimed still lives. Mexico breathes through its ruins, restless and resilient. The same sun that once warmed the warriors of Tenochtitlan now sets over plazas filled with church bells, market cries, and laughter. You listen to those sounds mingle, the chant of merchants, the tolling of vespers, and realize the conquest never really ended. It just changed its rhythm. Empires fall, languages merge, stories persist. The lake keeps its secrets, and somewhere beneath the cathedral floor, the stones of the old temple still pulse faintly, keeping time with a heart that refuses to die. Years pass, and the dust of empire settles, thin, golden, and deceptive. From afar, it looks like stability, but when you walk through it, you taste the bitterness underneath. The conquest has ended, but the transformation has only just begun. Tenochtitlan is no more. In its place rises Mexico City, a hybrid creature of stone and memory. Spanish architects designed straight streets where canals once wound like serpents. Churches bloom from the ruins of temples, their bell towers casting shadows over buried gods. The lake that once mirrored the sky is slowly drained, its shimmering surface replaced by cobblestones and courtyards. Yet when the rains come, water seeps up through the cracks, as if the drowned city still wants to breathe. You wander through these streets and see the strange coexistence of worlds. Friars in black robes walk beside market women selling maize and amaranth. Spaniards argue prices in broken Nahuatl. Natives whisper prayers that mix saints with spirits. The empire's victory has produced something neither side intended, a civilization stitched together from conquest and survival. Cortés, once the master of it all, finds himself increasingly out of place in the world he created. His soldiers grow fat on encomiendas, land grants carved from native labor. Bureaucrats from Spain arrive to govern what he once ruled by sword and charisma. He writes letters filled with wounded pride. They forget that I gave them a kingdom. The crown reads them, nods politely, and files them away. Malinche's name drifts through the new gossip of the city, part accusation, part myth. To the Spaniards, she becomes a saintly figure, the Christian Eve who brought light to heathens. To many natives, she's the mother of betrayal. Neither story tells the whole truth. She lives quietly on the Gulf Coast, raising her son, watching from afar as her words, her translations, continue shaping the new world she helped midwife. You imagine her listening to church bells and thinking how much they sound like the drums of the gods she once served. Beyond the city, Spanish power spreads outward like ink on parchment. Mines open in the north, sugar plantations take root in the south. Ships carry silver and spices to Seville, while priests carry crosses into mountains where no European has yet set foot. The old roads of empire become arteries for new greed. But the land resists in quiet ways. Villages keep their own councils under the guise of church brotherhoods. Fields are sown with maize between rows of wheat. Children are baptized with two names, one for the priest, one for the ancestors. The gods are hidden in plain sight, a carved idol tucked inside a saint's altar, a song sung to Mary that still praises Tonantzin beneath the words. You can feel the persistence of memory here, soft but unbreakable, like roots under flagstones. Cortés tries to keep pace with the times. He dreams of new conquests, new adventures, perhaps the fabled passage to the Pacific. But age and suspicion weigh him down. When he sails for Honduras to quell rebellion, the jungle swallows half his men. Cuauhtémoc dies there under his watch, executed on suspicion of treachery. Cortés claims sorrow, but the rumor sticks that he feared the young emperor's courage even in chains. When he returns, New Spain has moved on without him. Governors, bishops, and accountants have replaced generals. The age of swords is giving way to the age of pens. He sails back to Spain seeking recognition, petitioning the court for titles and favor. Instead, he finds that the king barely remembers his name. Who are you? Charles V is said to have asked when Cortés pushed through the crowd at court. I am the man, Cortés replied bitterly, who gave you more kingdoms than your father left you cities. He dies years later in relative obscurity, restless to the end. His bones are moved so many times that no one can agree where they finally lie. Maybe that's fitting for a man who never stayed still long enough to see what he'd made. And yet his shadow remains everywhere. In the streets, the language, the bloodlines. You see it in the faces of children selling fruit near the new cathedral. Eyes dark as obsidian, skin kissed by two continents. You hear it in the lilt of Spanish that carries Nahuatl words like chocolate, tomate, coyote. Little echoes of a world that refused to vanish completely. Historians will argue endlessly about legacy. Was Cortés a visionary or a villain? A genius or a parasite? The truth, you realize, is less tidy. He was both, the blade and the wound, the builder and the ruin. The same could be said of every empire. Sometimes, in the evening, when the wind moves just right across the plaza, you could swear you still hear faint drums beneath the church bells. The heartbeat of Tenochtitlan whispering through the centuries. It's not rebellion, it's memory. And memory, as every conqueror learns too late, is the one thing you can never truly subdue. The years fade like mist on the lake, and the story of conquest slips into legend. The people of Mexico City, no longer purely Spaniard nor Aztec, live among ghosts they do not entirely mourn. New plazas rise atop ancient foundations, cathedrals over temples, marble over obsidian. Yet every rainfall reveals the past again. The stones beneath the city remember everything. If you walk its streets at dawn, you can still feel the pulse beneath your feet, the rhythm of an empire that refused to vanish. Water seeps through cracks where canals once ran. Somewhere below, bones lie in layers. Warriors, priests, slaves, conquistadors, lovers, all sharing the same wet earth. Above them, vendors call out in Spanish laced with Nahuatl. Children run laughing past churches that hide the shapes of pyramids beneath their floors. History doesn't end. It reshapes itself. In the royal archives of Spain, Cortés becomes ink on parchment. His cartas de relación are printed and bound, a blend of confession and self-defense. He tells the emperor that the conquest was a divine miracle, that it brought salvation to millions. He never writes about the nights he couldn't sleep, or how the lake looked the morning after La Noche Triste. History, after all, prefers tidy sentences to muddy water. And yet, even in those polished reports, you can hear the cracks. Cortés calls himself servant of God and the crown, but his words betray longing for recognition, for understanding, perhaps even for forgiveness. He knows the conquest wasn't merely victory. It was transformation, irreversible and heavy as sin. Meanwhile, in Mexico, something extraordinary takes root. From ruin grows resilience. The children of Spaniards and natives, the mestizos, fill the streets, their faces blending two worlds. They invent a culture that belongs to neither conqueror nor conquered. Spanish saints share altars with Aztec symbols. Festivals blend crosses with flowers, prayers with dance. The Virgin Mary becomes Our Lady of Guadalupe, her image shimmering in colors that echo the old goddess Tonantzin. The faith of the empire has been remade in the valley's own image. Historians still debate whether that's submission or defiance. Maybe it's both. Cultures, like people, survive by pretending to obey until they can sing their own songs again. You can imagine Malinche watching this new world take shape from wherever her bones now rest. The woman who once translated every word between empires would see her story translated endlessly in return, accused, defended, rewritten. Some call her the mother of a nation, others the mother of betrayal. But beneath the noise, she remains what she always was, the bridge no one dared to look down upon. Cuauhtémoc II refuses to die quietly. His name becomes a whisper of pride, a symbol for the centuries of resistance that follow. Artists carve his image in stone. Chroniclers recite his courage and defiance of priests who tell them to forget. The last Aztec emperor becomes a seed, and that seed will grow in every rebellion to come. And what of the city itself? The empire that once called itself the navel of the world. It continues, reborn under new names. Its markets thrive again. Its canals turn to streets. Spanish governors rule from the same island once guarded by eagle warriors. The calendar changes. The gods change. The rulers change. But the lake, the mountains, the people endure. You stand once more on the hill of Chapultepec, where the breeze smells faintly of pine and water. From here, you can see the expanse of the valley, a mosaic of smoke and color, of cathedrals and markets, of memory. The sun dips low, staining the clouds crimson, the same hue that once filled this land in blood, now softer, almost merciful. 5 centuries later, the descendants of those who fought on both sides still walk these streets, often unaware of the bones beneath. They speak a language born from both conqueror and conquered. They celebrate holidays that blend resurrection and rain, saints and serpents. The ghosts of empire linger, not as curses, but as companions. You realize the conquest never belonged to Cortés alone, nor to Moctezuma, nor even to Spain. It belonged to the thousands whose names were never written, the porters, the farmers, the women who carried water through burning streets, the healers who buried the dead when there was no one left to pray. They built this new world from the ashes, quietly, stubbornly, and as night deepens, you hear their echoes everywhere. In the lullabies hummed to children, in the clang of church bells that still sound like drums, in the faint lapping of water beneath the city's stones. The empire of the sun may have fallen, but the warmth never left. It flows now through the blood of a nation that refuses to forget. So you stand there, watching the last light fade over the valley, and whisper the only truth history ever keeps. Everything ends, and yet somehow, everything continues. So take a slow breath. Let the drums, the thunder, the smoke of battle all fall away. The world around you quiets until you can hear only the wind moving through time. The story you've just drifted through, of gods and soldiers, of courage and cruelty, wasn't only about the Aztecs or the Spaniards. It was about us, about how every civilization believes itself immortal until one day it isn't. The empire of the Mexica burned, but its embers became the soul of Mexico. The empire of Spain rose on its ashes, and centuries later, it too faded into memory. Yet the people, the descendants of both victor and victim, still rise with the sun each morning, speak with borrowed words, and pray with mixed hearts. Maybe that's what survival really is. Not purity, but persistence. If you close your eyes, you can still hear the lake lapping against the causeways, smell the incense and rain. The city has changed, the gods have changed, but the heartbeat beneath it all hasn't. History doesn't vanish, it hums. So wherever you are tonight, whether it's midnight in Manila, dawn in Madrid, or twilight in Mexico, listen a little closer. The past is still there, whispering in the rustle of wind against stone, reminding us that every ending is just another beginning, told in a different tongue. Sleep easy, traveler. The lake is calm again. The drums are quiet. The story is done.